Thinking about Ayla, he felt a tightness in his chest, but he realized that, behind that sensation, he had not been able to feel her, and that the emotion and the throbbing heartbeat that his nanny spoke of also coexisted. And even if there was some deep and unknown reason for Ayla, it was certainly strange that he was so affectionate. For Hiram and Celine, the most important educational goal was to teach Winfred compassion and empathy. Not as crown prince of a country, but as a human being. Because they wanted me to grow up to be someone capable of empathizing with the pain of others and understanding their pain. Thanks to that education, Winfred became a crown prince who loved his people and knew how to empathize with their pain. So, anyone other than Ayla would be worried and heartbroken to see the people of the empire with such sad expressions. But this was too much. It was spinning in his head to the point where he couldn't think about anything else all day. If you think about it, it's strange not to fall in love. Winfred's cheeks flushed red as she remembered the moment she met Ayla. How can you not fall in love with a mysterious girl so cool, pretty and adorable, who even saved him from a desperate situation? Empress Celine, who was observing her son's changes, smiled radiantly. Instead of spending time with his parents, he got lost in his own world, and soon forgot them, and his face turned red. He couldn't help but smile because he thought it was adorable. How could emotions show so clearly on the face? Seeing it like this, it seemed that not only Hiram's appearance was identical to his son, but also his personality. Looking around, Hiram also had a big smile on his face. The only difference was that his smile was full of mischief, as if he was trying to tease his son. When Celine glared at him and warned him not to do so, Hiram's face became visibly sullen. Celine shook her head, saying that it would not be desirable to continue provoking her son during his sensitive adolescence. Winfred. I think we should go to the Duke of Weishaffen's residence soon. When Hiram, who had been gloomy, coughed awkwardly and changed the subject, Winfred, deep in thought, asked in a bewildered voice, "Huh? Is this the Duke's residence? Are you saying they accept guests now?" "Yeah. The Duchess has also entered a period of stability." Duke Weishaffen had not received visitors for some time. This was because the Duchess was pregnant. Since she was around 35 years old and had become pregnant in the advanced stages, she was very cautious with every move she made. "Go deliver the congratulatory gift on behalf of the royal family," Celine said with an elegant smile. The emperor was so busy that it was difficult for him to find time, and the empress was so ill that it was difficult for her to move. It wasn't that Winfred wasn't busy, dealing with his education and his job as crown prince, but he nodded, since he was the one who had the most freedom. Yes, that's how it should be. Roderick was also his teacher, who had taught him fencing since he was a child, so it was only natural that he would go to congratulate him at least once. Added to this was Celine's preparations, but Hiram and Roderick were completely unaware of it. It was an ingenious idea, born from the belief that a son would be better off with the trustworthy Roderick than his playful father for relationship advice. Winfred, who had no way of knowing her mother's sinister thoughts, opened her mouth with a radiant smile. The Duke's family finally has a successor. Thinking about the Duke and Duchess's love life, they couldn't understand why it was so late, but the Emperor and Empress were lost in thought as they looked at their son, who smiled happily and said that it was something to celebrate anyway. Winfred was so young that she seemed not to remember him, but she couldn't help but laugh at the thought of the Duke's only lost daughter. "Why are you all like this?" Although it was something she should have been happy about, Winfred blinked with a bewildered expression at her parents' unpleasant expressions. "No. It's something to celebrate. That is." Looking at her father, who was laughing awkwardly at her words, Winfred bit her lip hard and thought. After searching through his memories for a while, he remembered that Roderick and Ophelia had been searching for their lost daughter for a long time. "Oh, that's true. I remember you said they had a princess, but they lost her." "Yes, Win. You were very fond of that girl when you were little." don't you remember? In response to her mother's question, Winfred made a face as if she didn't remember anything. It was strange that he remembered it, since it had happened when he was only 3 or 4 years old. You always said that, when I grew up, I would be your wife. Oh really? He wasn't the type of father to worry about how to annoy him on a daily basis, and if his mother said it, it was probably true, but since he didn't remember it, he had a hard time believing it. Yes, it's true. I have joked with Roderick several times, let's get married someday. Every time, Roderick got very angry. Even though you are my best friend, Your Highness the Prince, I cannot forgive you for lusting after my daughter. He was so nervous because he never imagined that the serious Roderick would suddenly get angry. When Winfred looked at the princess and said, I will take you as my wife, he laughed, considering it a childish joke. While his parents laughed and reminisced, Winfred was alone, deep in thought. Did I say it? Although he was only 3 or 4 years old, he said he liked someone and wanted to make her his wife. For some reason, he felt like he had sinned against Ayla. My first love should be Ayla. Because if you ever meet again, he wants to give you his whole heart, something he's never given to anyone else. This thought may have been getting ahead of itself, since he and Ayla had no special relationship, but that's how Winfred felt. It was Ayla's freedom to accept that feeling or not. Because he wanted to give her a pure heart without any trace of guilt. No matter what they say, his first love was definitely Ayla. He could pretend that the stories from his childhood that he didn't even remember existed. Winfred, who had only recently realized that he liked Ayla, clenched his fists with an unnecessarily serious expression, becoming more serious than necessary. Ophelia was sitting in a comfortable rocking chair, looking out the window with an expression that left her unsure. Outside the window, white snow was piling up. It was a clean, quiet landscape, but somehow lonely. Ophelia. Her husband, Roderick, whispered her name in her ear. His hands around his wife's neck were extremely careful. Ah, Roderick. What were you thinking? At Roderick's question, Ophelia unconsciously put her hand on her lower abdomen. He couldn't believe there was still life growing inside him. That's all. It was a thought he didn't dare say out loud. Could she, who failed to protect her lost daughter, Ayla, be worthy of being a mother again? That's what I was thinking. Just thinking about Ayla made his heart ache. I was so sorry I couldn't protect that girl. Everyone comforted her. It wasn't his fault he lost Ayla. Who would have thought that while he was away for a moment on urgent matters, the nanny would disappear with the little girl? But Ophelia felt unbearable grief. If only he could go back in time, he would never leave the boy's side. 10 years passed with so much regret. That person, who was like this, was becoming a mother again. Ophelia, are you sure you're okay? Roderick asked with a trembling voice. Yeah. I'm fine. Ophelia smiled and caressed her husband's cheek. The life that grew in her womb was also her son. He felt sorry for the child who was born first, so he couldn't give up on that younger brother. The child he couldn't protect was sad, so he couldn't make other children sad. Is there news from Candace yet? Ophelia changed the subject, feeling like she was about to cry for no reason. It was time for a response from the friend who had written to her as soon as she found out she was pregnant. Ah. I was just about to bring her in because you got a response, Ophelia. Roderick took the envelope out of his chest and handed it to Ophelia. The wax seal that sealed the letter showed a woman with glasses smiling with her teeth bared. It was said to be a self-portrait drawn by Candace Epazure, Ophelia's old friend, who sent the letter. Roderick smiled slightly, without showing his expression, as he thought of his wife's eccentric friend. A normal person would have thought, is that rugged face a smiling face? But his wife, Ophelia, noticed that Roderick was smiling when he thought of Candace. What did he say? He said he would finish what he was doing and come right away. He said it would arrive in about 2 weeks. Candace lived in Timora, a small island nation across the sea. It wasn't too far from the southern coast of the Pelis Empire, which was also Ophelia's hometown, but it was still a considerable distance to get there in one go right after finding out about her friend's pregnancy. At the mention of Candace's arrival, Roderick's smile widened even more. He was worried about her age, but just knowing she was there put him at ease a lot more. Does Candace know why? Roderick asked cautiously.